Hey guys, welcome to Sleuth Forge. Today I'm kind of doing a different video format. We're gonna do an unboxing. So today I've got my buddy and professional welder, John. Um,
Hello, everybody.
you want to tell them a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I'm John. I got a forge myself called 59 Forge, and I've been in welding for about 25 years. I'm a welding instructor as well, so hopefully this is going to be pretty exciting. I always love playing with new machines, so uh, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Tim.
Aw, touch my heart. Anyways, let's get into this. We made this knife like in 5 minutes with no, I'm kidding. We just ran down to the store and bought it. So cut this box open.
Yeah, cut away from yourself. Good. Safety first.
And then cut towards yourself.
Yeah. Oh, he's giving me the joy of using that. Thank you. Thank you. And last but not least, okay.
Ooh, some paperwork.
How many blacksmiths does it take to open a Milwaukee, Lincoln box? All right.
So this looks like information.
Oh, a book. Okay.
You guys go in separate directions.
Look at this, the instruction manual nobody wants to read.
That's the warranty. Don't want to get that wet.
Okay, current, good. Look at that, 30% duty cycle at 90 amps. So if anybody doesn't know what a duty cycle is, duty cycle on a welder like this means if I have that thing maxed out 90 amps, I'm going to be welding for, if it's 30%, that means 3 out of 10 minutes. So if you're welding full steam with your welder and all of a sudden the thing cuts out after a couple minutes, chances are that you've just hit the duty cycle. You're going to have to wait, do the math, 10 minus 3, 7 minutes for the duty cycle to reset, and then you can continue welding. So if that ever happens, you didn't break your welder, don't panic, but that's what that means.
So while we're talking about this kind of thing, what's the difference between TIG, MIG, flux, and stick?
Oh man, there's so many different types of welding processes out there, and even what you've named, there's many more. So when you look at something like the MIG welder is going to be either a solid core wire, or as you mentioned, the flux core wire, which these machines are excellent with. Flux core wire has the core on the inside, so you'd be able to use that without a gas. There's also a dual shield, so you can use that flux core with gas. So really versatile when you have a gasless flux core. Something like this in the garage, it's pretty cheap to run and pretty easy, user friendly. Solid core wire, now you need that gas to give you an inert, shielded environment so your weld doesn't burn. Stick welding, now you got your stick welder, you put a stick electrode in there instead of a wire feed that's constantly putting down material. Your arc actually starts at the end of that stick, and that stick is consumed. Basically, it's all about the consumable there. Last one that you mentioned was the TIG. The TIG is how do you say this?
Wouldn't it be a little bit like the a mixture of the MIG and stick?
Pretty close. Like TIG actually stands for our slang, right? Tungsten inert gas. So it uses that inert gas, and that tungsten heats up, but it doesn't burn because that inert gas environment protects it from oxidization. So oxidization is your weld's worst enemy. And then you're going to physically manually add in your filler material with that. So that's basically the main points there.
All right, I'm gonna put a pause on this, and we'll be right back really quick. All right, sorry about that. Just had to adjust something here quick. Shall we get this new tool out of?
Yeah, let's get your new toy out of here. It is a toy. It's a tool and a toy. Okay. Hang on, this table's a little wobbly. Good thing we got this manual. And we'll slip that under the leg right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Good.
So what's this box here?
Let's pull the welder out. cares what's in that box? There we go. Ah, very nice, actually. That's a nice compact little unit.
Yeah, even it's got a little on-off switch back here.
Thing I like about these here is you got your ground cable. You can just plug that in, take it off when you're not using it with these quick disconnects. So the ground, you're going to put that in your negative. You want to have reverse polarity on your MIG machine, unless otherwise instructed by your operator manual.
Let's turn this so the ladies and gentlemen at home can see it a little better.
All right, so there's your negative, positive. So this one here for the machine goes into positive when you're just dealing with, working with steel in the shop. You've got your ground clamp here in the negative. Now, like, honestly, if we plug this sucker in, oh, do you want to do this? I'm just hopping right in.
Oh, no worries.
Absolutely. Joy. Thanks for buying this new thing for yourself that I'm about to take home.
Yeah, that's going to be your paycheck. You get to. It's actually nicer welder than all the other welders I've used. Like, the quality is just a jump from. That's one thing you need to be careful with when you're buying tools and stuff, is that it's the less money you spend on something might not necessarily be the best option.
Yeah, no kidding.
So
yeah, if you get a deal, sometimes there's a reason why it's so cheap.
So we've also got over here on my side, we've got the hose for if we want to hook argon up to it, which is one of the shielding gases you can use, and a pretty little box here that we want to see what's inside of.
So after you've lost the user manual, like 15-20 minutes after you open the box,
like we have,
on the back of the welder, there's usually some information that's in the manual that's going to help you out. Like we talked about the duty cycle, that's in there. It talks about sort of different ranges of the machine, using gas, using flux core. Just in a small chart, there's warnings here. Make sure when you're using equipment like this, you're doing it in a well-ventilated area. You're using a welding mask. You're using gloves because it's going to be hot work, right? You want to protect yourself. When you're having fun, there's no need to get hurt. Wow, this thing looks pretty good. Look at the size of cord on that sucker. For a 110, that's a pretty big plug. I'd imagine that's going to transfer a lot of power. I
kind of like the handle that they've given us here. It might not be the fanciest thing, but it'll be good for picking it up. Maybe if you got it stretched out enough, you can kind of just have your welder sitting here and you just all the way along, and you don't have to put it on a welding table or anything.
Is that for strapping on, taking it to parties to make all your friends jealous?
Yeah, there we go. That's what it's for.
Carry it with you when you go to the grocery store, people. You never know when you got an emergency weld job. Sarcasm warning. So here you can see there's no nozzle on this type of tip, or there's no nozzle on this setup, I should say. That means it's basically set for your flux core. Flux core doesn't need a nozzle because you have no shielding gas. If you remove this tip, it's threaded on, or this nozzle, I should say, and put on this nozzle, underneath here is what's called a diffuser. That's going to allow that inert gas to shield. Yeah, escape, shield. So that's going to come down your whip line, and the nozzle will help direct that inert gas right around that weld pool and keep you from having things like porosity or excessive spatter or whatnot.
So when you're doing really a weld, is it a good idea right before you take your thing away to like hold it there for a second and kind of just let the argon gas sit there at the end of your, just you keep that inert, non-oxidized area around your weld while it cools slightly and gets hard?
No, that's an excellent idea. When you do that, if you pull off too quickly when you're running a bead with gas, you may cause yourself to have piping porosity, crater, because the weld is actually still very hot. If we pull the MIG whip, I like to say whip, you can call it whatever you want, really. When you pull the whip away too quickly, you're taking that shielding gas away, and now the pool is able to oxidize. Again, here's that word again, oxidization. So oxygen, good for people, bad for weld. So when we don't need this, there's no sense keeping it on because it's just going to get ruined. Put it away. When you get serious about welding or you want to do something a little bit more cleaner, a higher quality even, you might want to put gas to this machine and run it with gas. While you're running flux core, we always have to remember the old adage, if it has slag or if it slags, then drag. So when you're running flux core, you really want the gun tilted backwards, and you're going to move yourself forward in this direction, kind of keeping that wire feed pushing backward. This is going to allow that weld puddle to eddy and swirl.
Eddy, what does eddy mean?
Eddy is basically swirl. It's basically a rotation in the pool. And while that's happening, your flux is melting in the pool. It's very sticky. It sticks onto impurities, and then it's lighter than the pool itself, so it actually floats to the surface and creates a cap. So right behind your arc, that cap is allowing that weld to cool underneath and protecting it from oxidization. Good, you remembered. Nice. Yeah, nice little unit here.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I've realized in this unboxing that it didn't actually come with any wire. So that's something we'll have to
All right. Well,
play with another day.
Yeah, I guess we're going to have to do a usage video afterwards. But again, you're not hooking gas up right away. Here's the hose for that if you were.
I've got the gauge over here that's in the...
And that'll just thread into the back of the machine, but don't leave it on when you're not using it. It'll just get ruined. Put it away so when you want it, or if you want to sell the machine later and get yourself another one, then somebody else has the option. So there's the regulator there. Now, question. Can I use a argon regulator for things like acetylene or oxygen?
I want to say no.
You'd be correct. You need to use the regulators in kind. Argon regulator, sometimes they may be dual usage where they show argon and CO2 or argon helium, but inert gas regulators should be used in kind. Oxygen for an oxygen tank, acetylene for acetylene tank. And acetylene will actually have a reverse threading to prevent anybody from actually using that
the wrong
gauge.
Regulator for the wrong.
Exactly. Like you're not going to put your argon regulator on an acetylene tank and then pump acetylene through your welding outfit. It's just not going to work. Okay. What else you want to look at in here? Here's where the wire goes in.
Yeah, there's a nice little chart here for how to install the wire and everything. That unscrews there. That comes out, and you start to expose your bearing.
Nice little system there. Got a little pressure roller. When you're using a gas shielding, you're going to use what's called a do they call it a K roller or a groove? No, K, sorry, getting mixed up here. So the K roller is what's in there now. It's actually a knurled roller. So that has almost little teeth around the groove, which helps crimp the wire. Yeah, and this one will be your groove roller, which has just a smooth groove. So that'll be for a solid wire, not your flux core. Flux core, you want to use that K roller, that knurled roller. It's going to actually crimp up that tube a little bit. It holds a better grip on it to feed it through the system. It actually helps to break up the flux inside. So as that's going into your weld puddle, it's a lot easier to weld up little bits and dust as opposed to big tubular chunks. That's why they have that. But no, when you have spare parts like this, always, again, keep them together.
The right thing in the right spot.
Keep them together, exactly. Don't lose that stuff. It's easy to get lost, and then when you want to use it, you think you had it, and you'll never find it again. no, this is a great little unit. I'm happy to see how small and compact these machines have been getting. Whether
It makes it it makes it easier for the guys starting out to look at something like this that is smaller to work with, because it's not as big of a unit. Some of those bigger units can be very intimidating, right? Like you look at some of the big millers and it's like, whoa, there's this panel that tells me voltage, and now
yeah,
I've got to worry about wire feed voltage, and it can get very complicated, right? Like,
totally. A small machine like this too, like it's very cost effective. It stores really easily. How much room do you have in your garage for hobbyists? Like a hobbyist usually has a bunch of different tools and things. When you start adding a giant welding box, you're using up your valuable space rather quickly. With a nice little unit like this, you're easily storing that even in an upper cabinet or a lower cabinet. And with the addition of a little welding cart, this thing is just on fire. Really nice unit.
what I like about the size of this thing, and you might disagree with me on this, is that if you got something like a plasma cutter, you don't have to get two carts for the separate machines. You can just put them right next to each other.
I mean, if they fit, or you make yourself a custom cart where all your little things
I'm
kind of
just
get together.
referring, right, because of such a small footprint.
Mm-hmm.
You start to kind of come into those advantages of, hey, I don't need very big welder.
Yeah.
Well, here's this small one, but I've also got this plasma cutter right next to it.
Well, I know some people are going to say, well, why don't you just get a combo machine that'll do stick, TIG, plasma cutting, all this? Well, you're looking at the difference between, you know, maybe, I don't know what you paid for this, but I'm just
It
maybe,
was about $500 in total, but I
yeah.
got it on sale. So
So you're getting it on sale. You're looking at $500. You want a combo unit like that, you're going to be starting way higher than that. Or you can buy one no-name brand from you know where, and the thing is maybe going to work and maybe it won't. Maybe it won't last long. Maybe you can't buy consumables for it. This is a Lincoln Electric. You can buy consumables. You can easily get parts for this machine. It's
and
not something obscure that you can't
well, and it's
continue to
very
use.
clearly labeled of what wire sizes you need. You take a picture of the box even, and go down to your local Canadian Tire and pick up. Sorry, we're in Canada, so we're no, I mean, so yeah, it's one of those things where it's, yeah, you run down to your local hardware store that carries simple welding
Yeah,
supplies, and
exactly.
pick up 0.36 gauge wire.
Right. Like you have different sizes 025, 030, 035. This machine will run great on a nice little, I think the roller even says 030, but usually you can get different sizes. So 030, 025, 035. Just depends on what you want to do.
So, anyways, but this has been the unboxing for and interview for the Lincoln Electric Weld Pack 90i, which we haven't actually talked about these dials up front, which are really nice. But yeah,
We'll get into that in the usage video.
yeah, those are
Really
actually
easy,
nice and
user friendly.
very simple.
One will be for controlling wire feed, so how fast the wire's coming out, and the other one will be for controlling um, your voltage. And because it doesn't have that digital readout, I don't think, no, this will
It's
be
got
sort of,
temperature and warnings and voltage warnings, I think, but I don't think it has anything about. Yeah, there's no actual digital screen.
so at least when it's overheating, you'll know that the thing's getting hot and this light will come on.
Combined with the flames coming out the
Yeah,
top,
the flames, the melting smell.
the screaming.
Yeah, yeah, your garage on fire, you name it, right?
So, yeah, but we'll come out with a usage video with this thing and show you guys what it's packing. But until then, see you in the forge.